Welcome to the second module of our course, The Neuroscience of Creativity, where you will learn what wires human brains for creativity. What is the cognitive software that makes the human brain capable of creativity and innovation? You'll learn about the prefrontal cortex, or PFC, and the hippocampus. Why is memory important in creativity and innovation? And what about left brain and right brain capabilities? What wires human brains for creativity? Well, let's dive into how the human brain functions. What is unique about the human brain that allows creativity to happen? When you compare the human brain to other species, you actually see many similarities. We know that all sentient beings are connected on some level, yet compared to our animal kingdom friends, humans display some remarkable cognitive capabilities. Pigs are really smart, yet you don't see any launching space shuttles. You don't see dogs composing symphonies or cows creating new product innovations. So what is the cognitive software that makes the human brain capable of creativity and innovation? Some scientists say that what's special about the human brain is that our brains have more neurons and expend more energy than would be expected for our size, and that our human cerebral cortex, which is responsible for higher cognition, is disproportionately large compared to other species. Because this science is constantly evolving, I looked for some of the most recent studies on this question, and I found one from February 2022. This study compared the human brain function to bottlenose dolphin brain function. Humans and dolphins are often compared to one another because dolphins have incredibly high levels of intelligence compared to other species. Dolphins are capable of problem solving. They engage in highly social behaviors. They can actually beneficially alter their surroundings, solve problems, and they form complex social groups. But unlike humans, dolphins don't use tools, problem solve, or have structured discussion to the degree that humans do. So let's look at the differences between a dolphin brain versus the human brain. Though dolphin brains are actually larger than human brains, humans have a larger brain relative to body size. The biggest differences are in the prefrontal cortex, or PFC, and in the hippocampus. So human brains have a highly developed prefrontal cortex, or PFC, the largest of any primate. Comparatively, the dolphin's prefrontal cortex is limited in size. The human PFC sits behind the forehead. It allows us to examine possibilities like, what if I did that in the future? What if I had done that in the past? Imagining, what if I could do that? There are a few different brain regions that comprise the PFC. We won't take a deep dive here, but I have linked an article in your workbook if you want to learn more about the areas of the PFC. The PFC is the key to planning behaviors, making decisions, and engaging in social behaviors with other people. In human beings, the PFC is in charge of executive functions, allowing us to work toward specific goals and determine potential outcomes. Humans also have a larger and far more developed hippocampus area in the brain compared to dolphins. The hippocampus is a somewhat small region in the human brain that's shaped kind of like a seahorse. The hippocampus is responsible for the elements of memory, learning, motivation, emotion, and more. In the human brain, the hippocampus is most often considered in terms of how it impacts long-term memory. Why is memory important in creativity and innovation? Because with memory, we can learn and retain information and knowledge and then recall it later. Now let's dive in a bit deeper and bust a long-held myth. What about right brain and left brain capabilities? The right side of the brain is creative and the left analytical, right? Well, that's what many of us were taught. But now that we understand more, no, it's not that simple. Let's bust that myth. We now understand that you don't just use the left or right hemisphere of the brain when you are thinking creatively. Popular psychology used to teach that in order to be creative, you had to unlock the capability of the right brain where conceptual, imaginative, and innovative thoughts are housed. The left brain was believed to be practical, logical, analytical, super serious. Well, neuroscientists now understand that creativity requires the interaction of lots of different brain networks that rely on both the left side and the right side of the brain. Creativity requires a breadth of functions and benefits from having the most crosstalk possible between parts of your brain. In fact, your brain's creative capability comes from the dynamic interplay between memory and control systems. Scientists now understand that over 40 different brain areas are used for creativity. With memory, your mind has access to the knowledge and expertise you have gained over time. With mental control, you have the ability to propel thinking in new directions. What's important to know for the purposes of this course is that no single area of your brain is responsible for creativity. Instead, many interacting processes work together to launch creative work. The reason this is important to understand is because creativity depends on two different mental processes, as we learned in Module 1, divergent thinking and convergent thinking. When we learn more about tools and techniques in later modules, we'll talk more about divergent and convergent processes. But before we go there, I want to focus some more on the inner critic that we learned about in Module 1.